Warning! Warning! Hoyo shill! I repeat, warning! Hoyo shill! We're collecting all the titles with this one. Now look, as somebody who started their content creating career in PGR and played a lot of Wuthering Waves and made content on it, I have been given the label of Kuro bot from time to time, but now it's time to collect a new title, and today we're becoming a Hoyo shill because I'm going to be sharing, you know what, my honest thoughts about something, and it's about ZZZ and about why it has become my favorite and arguably one of the best gacha games on the market, whether or not the content does well. Now, a lot of people have been critical of ZZZ in the past with saying that people's viewership, while streaming goes down, the viewership on a lot of the YouTube videos is a lot lower compared to a lot of Hoyo versus other titles, and people use that as an indicator of the quality of the game, and it's just simply not true. I have played ZZZ since the launch of the game on 1.0, and you know what? I have had zero regrets in doing so because I have been treated with nothing except awesome graphics, a fantastic style, banger music, awesome animated cinematics, and a dev team who shockingly actually listens. Everybody goes in on Hoyoverse very often as a developer who doesn't listen, and often that's because people are referring to Genshin and their lack of change based on a lot of, well, at least say the English-speaking community's general feedback to the game. But Hoyoverse, at least on the ZZZ side, is not the same company. This is a development team that by all metrics has been listening so closely to its community, really actioning on its feedback, and created something that has been perfect for someone like me. Since this game has launched, there's been nothing but quality of life improvement, patch over patch, with new story content being added into each one. Is everything of the same caliber as 1.4? No. But it definitely is a step in the right direction. In fact, there's only one thing in this game that was a massive misstep for it, and that's the mystery of the arpeggio fault, which we'll come back to in just a minute. But I want to show you why I think this is one of the best gacha games on the market by showing you that it delivers you a quality product in a way that respects your time as a player. Now, let's remember something here when we're talking about gacha games. Gacha games appeals to a very particular market, a market of fairly casual gamers overall. Yes, some of these games do get hijacked by, sweaty hardcore players, like in games like Wuthering Waves or PGR or in Honkai Star Rail trying to hit zero clears. You're always going to hit that, 1% fringe that really wants to hardcore a game. But most gacha games appeal to a casual audience. And I would say I've approached this game as a casual audience, and it's been the best experience for it. Now, when the game first came out, most people were sprinting through the content as fast as possible. They came in day one, they were grinding out the story, they were spamming through everything, and they were just constantly being thrusted into the less than ideal, very much so, TV mode of the game. But when I started the game, I didn't approach this game as content, and I didn't approach this game from a mindset of needing to rush to keep up with content creators. I started 2 weeks late coming into ZZZ, and I very much took my time with it. I was still clearing through some of the main story content by the end of 1.0 and into 1.1 and taking my time to catch up. But that's also not even including all the character side stories and then the new stories that came out in 1.1. And being able to do that and take the game at my own pace, and allowed me to saturate myself in the world a little bit more. It allowed me to appreciate the characters and the world building more. And that's something that you 100% need to do with this game. ZZZ has, in my opinion, some of the best designed characters and some of the best character models in the game. When the animations or in the story mode it comes up, the facial animations are far superior than any of the other Hoyoverse titles or a lot of other gacha games that are out there. And they also have fantastic storytelling mechanics with the animated sequences, with the comic sequences, and then in the light novel, more side-by-side story mode, a lot of it is voiced as well. And when you allow yourself to take your time to play through that, you actually realize that this is actually a pretty cool world that they're building. One that is just absolutely oozing with style and substance. Now, I don't know about you, but I am tired of the same world-saving narrative that has been part of pretty much every gacha game these days, where like you are the savior of humanity and everything revolves around you. Wuthering Waves, I think, has a huge problem with this right now, where it feels like every single thing that has happened in the game thus far is always centered on Rover. You are the focal point of everything. And even big established things that have already taken place, well, it turns out Oh, it's still you anyway from a while ago. So coming into this game, I wanted something different, and that's what this game brought. It brought a game where the scope of it is much smaller. You're not this world-saving figure, you're just a hacker. A really good hacker, and one of the best ones that exists. But you're not some person who's just gonna come in and hijack the entire narrative. You feel like you're somebody who's part of the narrative, and that is a way better approach to the story. The world building for this game feels like you actually exist within this store. You're just a video store owner that actually is a hacker on the side, and it all exists as a front. But on top of that, beyond simply just the main story or the characters' side stories, they've also added in special episodes that almost barely even concern the main character of the game. You get incorporated later on, and there's still some elements that cross over for sure, but they build up the other characters in this game as individuals who exist, have their own motives and motivations, which makes me personally just love the characters that much more. And one of the cooler parts about it too is the side stories also still have an impact and an influence on the main story of the game as well. I know some people have some mixed feeling about the combat in this game, but in another devs listened moment, they've been constantly improving on that as well. One of the shortcomings on launch of the game is that you could only do an ultimate on one of the characters on field, and it would reset the ultimate charge. But that's no longer the case. Now every character is recharging their ultimate. And I know some people are going to diminish that and say, well, that should have been the case from the start. I get that, but they were also trying to do something different. And I'm not necessarily going to harp on them for trying to do something different, realizing it doesn't work, and then going back to a more standard format that we're used to. That's exactly what we're looking for in a developer, and we should 100% be giving credit where credit is due in those situations. But on top of that, with the recent addition of characters like Harumasa Asaba, who by the way is free, he just got recently added in the game for free if you log in right now, but also characters like Miyabi, who is an absolute beast in this game, they constantly are refreshing that. But despite Miyabi being fantastic, that doesn't diminish the awesome fun playstyles of characters like Jange Do or Zhu Yuan, who are both also fantastic looking characters, I might add. But earlier on in the video when I said, the game really respects the player who's coming into this and understands that it appeals to a casual audience, it does this in other ways as well. First thing is the dailies. Anybody who plays gacha games know that dailies are just the normal grind for the game. And if it's something that you want to keep up with, you got to keep up with the dailies unless you want to drop, some money later on or when the new updates do come through. The cool thing about Zenless Zone Zero dailies is they are probably the easiest dailies in any gacha game that I have ever played. Let me show you them. Go to the video store. We literally select a character to represent the video store, recommended tapes, open. When we come back later, we're gonna get some free currency, and then we can get some skill level up materials. We sprint over to the scratch the tickets. We go over. We scratch a ticket. Scratched a ticket. Okay, done. We run over to the coffee shop right here. Looks like Ambi's inside for some reason. We can go in, Tin Master Special, order, skip. After you've seen the animation, you don't need to watch it every time. And, oh, I got intercepted by Ambi. But this does actually lead into another one of my points that I wanted to talk about, that actually the interactions with the characters in game, again, make you feel like you're living in the world. When you go around the different zones or the different hubs of the game, you just are going to randomly bump into these characters and have those experiences. But after having the coffee, you can come over here, boom, dailies done. And you don't even have to go through and use all your energy if you don't want to, because there is an energy overflow system that you can go in and use that energy at a later time. So as far as respecting your time and your need to do dailies, it is literally one of the lowest barriers of entry that I've ever seen in a gacha title. But on top of that, in another devs listened combo moment, one of the other things that happened on launch of the game is there's this game mode called Hollow Zero. This is an exploration game mode that was added. The Withering Domain is what was there. Now, to get some of the weekly rewards here, you originally needed to run these like 3 times in a week. Now that's a lot. This isn't like a short game mode. This is one that's going to take a little bit more playtime. So to demand a player to do that multiple times over in a more casual style was a lot. But here's the thing, they've reduced it. You don't actually need to play it that many times now. And as you kind of progress through the game mode, you can clear a lot of these weekly rewards in like one run if you do it with one of the higher levels of difficulty. They've also added in recently the Lost Void, which is another roguelike mode into the game. But both of these game modes share the same bounty requirement, so you don't even need to be running both versions of the endgame game mode to get your weekly rewards. This game mode is still a mistake. It was still so stupid. I hated it so much, it's strictly about the TVs, but we're going to use that as a segue to talk about the TVs. One of the other things that was burning players out when the game first launched was the TV game mode. A lot of people really didn't like the TV experience in the game. I didn't mind it personally, but I will say that arpeggio mode did make me hate it. The devs listened very quickly to the feedback that players did not like the TV game mode, and they ripped it out of the game. And I will say, this originally for me had a little bit of a negative feeling. The next story chapter that released after they removed the TV game mode almost felt rushed, or like everything had been kind of squished together without the TV game mode. You can tell that that was an essential component to the gameplay experience. So there was a bit of a bumpy transition there. But now with 1.4, they've added in a new bang mode Fall Guys-like exploration system that is incorporated into the game. On top of that, without any kind of major spoilers to this main story, they've incorporated some other unique ways to still make the player feel invested without needing to bring the TV system into the game as well, but I won't spoil any of that. Those aren't even the only endgame game modes though. They've also incorporated an endless tower game mode that increases in difficulty that's just simply there for fun, as well as having multiple other combat game modes that are available, whether you want to go back and do boss fights or other things. Again, like I was saying before, I've been having a lot of fun with the Lost Void game mode, getting to play the new boss that has been added into this patch, do some of the exploration there, some other unique character interactions that take place is really cool. The game just has so many little systems and little things that help everything tie together and feel connected. Here's one thing that I don't see people talk about a lot. The game has this reputation system that exists within it. And as you increase your relationship with the characters in the game, you actually unlock these little things here. Every character has one of these affinity items. And when you're playing some of the endgame game modes, it gives you little bonuses if you bring these characters into the game mode. I just recently did a playthrough with Yanagi going through the Lost Void game mode. In one of the hub areas, then I had the option to interact with her, which gave me additional healing and benefits into going through that endgame game mode. So now this reputation or relationship, affinity system, whatever you want to call it, now it's not simply just like a vanity thing. You can level this up and it actually gives you benefits in other parts of the game as well. It allows you to swap these menus for the different characters. It's just another piece for that. Which I want to bring it back to just my final point about the storytelling in this game. Hoyoverse is notorious for yapping and bloat. It's one of the biggest criticisms of Honkai Star Rail and Genshin Impact right now. While I'm not going to equate the two, I know Honkai Star Rail's story is better. It is still flooded with so much story bloat in a way that just honestly drains me sometimes when I play it. I just couldn't do it. I recently just played the new story mode with Sunday and Ting Yun, and even then, I'm not going to lie, for parts of it, it was really dragging for me and a lot of the Sunday exposition. They go so high-minded and so high level and philosophical with it that you just get kind of tired to listening to it. The Zenless Zone Zero story doesn't do that. While the Zenless Zone Zero story definitely still has some, higher level concepts for the world building, it's told in such a practical way that anybody who's just there watching and listening is going to be able to enjoy it. It sounds like real characters having a conversation and not like three philosophers sitting in a room just musing about the fundamentals of life. It makes it just so much enjoyable where you feel like it's friends hanging out and having just a good old chat sometimes in a way that I really enjoy. And it's told in such a tight manner in its storytelling, and it's so concise that actually it makes me leaving wanting more. It makes me want more from the story. The recent story chapter is somewhere between 2 to 2.5 hours of the full run through of the story. That's with animated sequences, comics, light novel style, fully voiced storytelling, everything kind of put together. And actually I got through the whole story going, man, I want to keep playing. Man, I want to go through more of this story. It actually has almost the inverse effect as some of the other titles from Hoyoverse, in that I think it needs more context and needs more things to be added. There are sometimes things that happen in the story that they just kind of black screen with the transition that I wish they would show. I know the other titles do that too, but because the story is told in such a tightly written and conveyed in such a tight way, it makes me long for that. But I'm not going to say that that's a massive negative in comparison to the rest of the market right now. But what it has left me with at the end of 1.4 is this positive feeling of that I am loving the trajectory of this game, and I'm having a lot of confidence in this game. And I just want to put this out there to say, if anybody else is watching this and you've made it this far in the video, give Zenless Zone Zero another try. I honestly do think it is worth your time and it's worth taking a look at. But that's going to be it from me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.